I don't really know what to say except it's December and Merry Christmas. I am feeling a lot better with all my Christmas decorations up, and this is my elf on the shelf. His name is Simon. He's a real person and he is my unofficial brother. We are trying to make it an official thing, but we have yet to find a genetic proof that we are actually related. We are so similar that we may as well be related. And if anyone is out there to prove that we are more than welcome to hear about that. We have theorized a lot of things. It's really weird. I don't even want to get into it, but for those of you who don't know, he is Aldrin on Movellas. I don't think he uses that account anymore. I'll link his socials down below, along with the author of the story I'm gonna read today. But he's great, he's my brother, and I love him, and he's my elf on the shelf, and he is now part of the woodwork, so anytime I record here, he he is going to be in the background. He's just going to be my little angel or devil. It goes either way with us. On my shoulder. Today, I don't even know if I want to go over my day. My day's been a long day. Today is my longest day, as some of you may know. It is a Tuesday. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my longest days, but since last week I did not get to record a video on time. I'm thinking maybe this week I'll do 2, but it's not going to be regular. I'm only doing it because it's December. It's the Christmas spirit and I was late last week. So I may do 2. I still have to get to the figures by Eve Lily, I think her name is. There's another story in the pipeline that I need to review, but I want to review this one because I made a very sort of quick promise that I would give it a look. And I have, and I really like it, and I think it's worth reading here. And also, I believe that this user is pretty new, so I'm going to read that. But I will be doing the figures by Eve Lily next week. I was supposed to do it for Halloween. I don't know what happened. Just so you know, neither of these stories are happy, cheerful stories, but this one has like a fairy tale element. So I'm gonna grasp that. I also don't know how long this video is going to be. I'll probably leave a timestamp below if this video gets too long, which it probably will be. It's me. But we're gonna just jump into it. I am not gonna cut this video. I'm not gonna edit this video. There's gonna be no music in this video. So if that's not your thing, bye. I'll see you in the next one if I decide to edit that one. But we are going to be reading Blood Crown by E.I. Hawboldt. I think that's how it's pronounced. And I apologize if it isn't pronounced that way. I am very uncultured when it comes to outside the UK. But we're going to be reading chapter 1, and it's a fairly short chapter. It's about 2 pages long, so we're going to do that. Blood Crown, chapter 1. A rat lay dead on the ground. The smell of urine and mould engulfed Larissa's nostrils. Oh god, okay, I just realised that this isn't a Christmas story. And I'm reading it in December. Like, this is a really, like, good introduction. It's not a terrible story. I just like that image. Sorry. Give me a second. I'll be back. Okay, we're back. A rat lay dead on the ground. The smell of urine and mould engulfed Larissa's nostrils. She was cuddling against a brick wall, a tattered old rag, the only thing providing her warmth. I'm not myself today. So sorry. She was half asleep, only getting bits and pieces of their conversation. Please, I don't want you to going back out there, a female voice spoke. What if they get you? How could I tell her that? She's only 4. You know I can't stay, a man spoke, his tone never changing. All the food's gone. I won't let you both starve, and we need medication. Your arm is not just going to heal on its own. I'll be careful. Careful? That's what James said. That's what I said last time. You can't go. Her voice began to rise, anger surging through her veins. Mum, Larissa whispered. fingers enfolding around her scrap of cloth. The air around her was filled with dust, and she could not see in the dark. "No, Princess, go back to bed. Daddy and I were just talking," her mother said. Larissa sat up, watching the one and only window in their basement. Besides the small window stood the only door to the outside world. When they had found this abandoned room inside a labyrinth of hallways and factory rooms, they hadn't thought about simple things like a bathroom or a food supply. Getting away from people was all they could think to do. "My tummy hurts, Mummy," Larissa groaned as her stomach rumbled. A shadow outline came near Larissa. The mammoth hands of her father lifted Larissa from under her table. "Daddy, I'm hungry," she whispered in his ear. He carried her over to the window, and his wife. "We can have a can of tomatoes. How does that sound for breakfast?" He smiled, setting Larissa in his lap before picking up a rusty can. The cement floor was ice cold underneath her bare feet. She licked her lips before cuddling up closer to her father. "Could we have oatmeal?" Larissa muttered. "Not today, Princess. How about a story? Would that make you sleepy?" She nodded ferociously, giggling with a smile from ear to ear. Once upon a time, there lived a small girl. Her father set Larissa into her mother's lap, using his hands to tell a story. She was very pretty. Her parents loved her very much. They made her a huge palace beside a peaceful village to show their affection. "That's not how the story goes," Larissa said. "Where's the prince? She has to be saved by a prince." "Yes, there is a prince. However, he was on a mission to save something precious, something beyond your imagination. First, he must find a crown. This crown is special. It holds many rubies and stones. Nevertheless, you know what is so special about this crown? It's made of glass, and the only person who ever wore this crown was said to be the most honest and kindest person alive." He pointed to Larissa. She yawned, holding her blanket to her chest. "The prince, with his huge horse, came up to her palace. He called out to her, asking if she had his crown. However, what he found was unexplainable, for she was wearing his crown, coming towards him, dressed in white. She was beyond gorgeous. The prince immediately fell in love with her." "No happily ever after?" Larissa asked, her eyes drooping to a close. "Oh, of course she gets a happily ever after. She is just waiting for her prince to find her, for the palace wouldn't let anyone pass beyond its stone walls." "Well, then how does he get to her? A scream came from the window. Someone began banging on the door, and dust fell from the old wood. "They're here! Hide her quick!" Mum shrieked. Larissa squealed before being shoved into a corner under the staircase. The only table was slammed against the stairs, protecting her from the monsters. "Larissa, we're going to play a game. Daddy and Mummy are going to slay a dragon. How does that sound? But you have to be silent so that the dragon can't get you." "Mom, I'm scared," Larissa cried. The door kept on moving. "I know, Princess. Just cover your ears and pray. Pray with all your heart." The door thumped against the stall. Larissa closed her eyes and began praying as her feet hit the stairs above her. "Shoot, Gabriel, shoot!" The ringing of a gunshot echoed in the small room. Something wet leaked down onto Larissa's shoulder. A body rolled down the staircase. "Mum?" No one said a word as another scream came from the door. 2 more gunshots exploded in her ears. "Gabe!" A hand thrusted through the stairs, reaching for Larissa. Screaming, she swatted the grey hand. Another shot rang in her ears, for someone began to thrash on the ground. Screams and growling came from the room. A single gunshot silenced everything. Larissa shivered into her rag before whining into the thin fabric. staring through the stairs at the horrible scene. Larissa's cheeks dripped with tears. 6 bodies lay on the concrete floor, limbs sprawled out in every direction, and Larissa couldn't tell who was who. The room looked like a sea of blood. It felt like the sea was drowning her. "Mum? Dad?" she whispered to the floor, watching as a body twitched by the door. "Kill," came an emotionless voice full of menace, and a rasping sound. Another figure came into view, this one dressed in rags and completely made of bones, and rubbery skin. Larissa covered her mouth as the smell of rot filled her tiny nose. Moving around, the man kneeled over a body, ripping its limbs off one by one and shoving the blood-stained flesh into the hollow of its mouth. The man licked his lips. A satisfying crunch came from his mouth. Larissa's mouth filled with saliva. When was the last time she had eaten? She couldn't even think as the smell of fresh meat filled her body, taking over every sense. Crawling out from under the stairs, she went over to a body completely drenched in blood. The man growled at her, sniffing the air before coming over to her. It touched her forehead, glaring at her small form. "Friend?" he asked, sniffing her hair again. "Friend," she murmured, eyes going straight to his face. He had a kind face concealed in blood and dirt, but his eyes were the greenest emerald she had ever seen. Then, without warning, he lifted her hand to his mouth and bit hard into her soft skin. Larissa screamed as a dark liquid splattered to the floor. It was darker than red, almost representing a black. The man nodded before returning to his meal. Larissa clasped a hand to her chest, tears still falling from her eyes. She sniffed the air. The room smelled like death and grime. And that was all of chapter 1. She has yet to post the second chapter from what I understand. She, he, I'm not entirely sure. They. Let's go with they. In terms of a review, I think that this is a really good start to a story. There are obviously things that I can suggest, but I'll get to that at the end. The things that I want to highlight first of all is that I really like the premise that you've created, because it's almost the premise for a fairy tale story where you have a princess and you have a prince and there's a crown and everything. And I'm assuming there's some kind of kingdom that goes along with all of this. But it has a twist, this like horrific paranormal twist that I'm really like interested in, and I think could be more interesting with time, like the more you write it. I also like the more graphic description towards the end. I think a lot of people struggle with that because obviously it's quite squeamish to write about things involving blood and gore and things, and I think the imagery that you've put in there is very fulfilling. And I like the supernatural paranormal elements and just the general, like, where this story is going. In terms of what you could get better at and what my suggestions are, in terms of grammar, your use of commas is a little bit off. You need to use commas a little bit more just to make your writing flow a bit better, especially in terms of speech. You often leave speech just in speech marks. You usually have to add either a full stop or a comma or some kind of punctuation to end it off before you like write who said what. And you also need to format how people speak so that it's clear who's speaking, because you've bunched up a couple of parts of speech. You've bunched them up in paragraphs and it's not easy to tell who's saying what sometimes. Your use of the different there, and theirs, you need to work on that. There are a couple of places where you've spelt Larissa's name wrong, and I've stumbled on that name a few times because I'm not used to saying it. I understand that it's a difficult name. There's nothing wrong with using a common name if you really want to. And I don't think you should be afraid of using a common name if it suits you better, but I've noticed that you've misspelled it in specific places. In terms of storytelling, I would think about the time and setting. I understand that they're using guns, and I think this is a zombie storyline. But I would use mother, father, or mama, papa if it's supposed to be like an older setting, because you use like prince and princess, and I don't know if that's literal or not. If it's modern day, then that fits, but if it's not, like if it's a setting that's meant to be set in like the 1500s or something, you may want to revert to using mother, father, mama, papa kind of language. And some other suggestions would be your pacing. I think that for some people who are trying to hide, you need a lot more silent moments that are filled with description. So you have people who are arguing, you obviously, and you have this little girl who wakes up hearing the argument, but I think that they should be more silent, in my opinion, if they're trying to hide. Sorry. And those silent moments should be filled with description. Description of your surroundings, description of what everybody looks like, and increase your use of vocabulary. As far as I can tell, I don't really know what anyone looks like, and I can understand the mum and dad because they die off pretty quickly, but in terms of the little girl, I don't know what the little girl looks like. I was trying to picture an image of what she could look like, and I have an image of that in my head, but I think it would be very useful for you to describe that and put in a lot more silent, like intimate moments, denoting that they're hiding, because from the get-go it just sort of sounds like a typical family spat with a zombie twist. I think that there should be more silence, there should be more whispering, there should be more secrets, hush-hush. And something that I didn't write on my paper that I would like to point out is that I'm not sure of the title. The title is very telling for what the story you're going for. I think that the title should be a bit more cryptic. Obviously there's going to be a crown. That's important to the story, but I think you should make it way more cryptic by not even saying that there's a crown to begin with, in the title at least. And that's more or less everything I have to say for you. The story itself sets up a very interesting narrative, and I hope you continue it. I would like to see more of it. And I hope that people, you know, check you out and they follow you and you get welcomed into the community. It's an amazing community once you start getting to know people on the platform, and how like lovely everyone is. And I hope that this review was useful for you, most of all. Like that was the whole point of the video, and if you didn't get that, I deeply apologize. But until next time, and possibly soon, possibly this Thursday, I'm going to be posting another video, just to make up for last week. And I just wanted to point out why that like first line threw me off. It's because I saw a mouse yesterday, and I don't see mice very often. It wasn't in my house, it was outside, it was in a train station. And I saw a mouse, and my initial reaction was like a jump, like my heart sort of jumped into my throat. But I love mice. I think mice are so cute, and like I was just looking at it scurrying around. I don't know what happened to it, and like a rat lay dead on the ground just brought that image to mind, and I like stumbled. I apologize. I'm a nutcase. I'm so sorry, and I hope you continue watching me. Although after that, I don't know why you would. If you enjoyed this video, or you just enjoy watching me fail at reading almost every week, please like and subscribe and share this video everywhere. If you didn't like it, tell me why in the comments below. Leave me a dislike. Do whatever you have to do. You're millennials. I don't need you to I don't need to I don't need to tell you to do anything. But yeah, until next time, have a great night and goodbye. See you next time.